This is a poem I have written, and it's about me and my friend getting caught on mephedrone by my mum. I suppose it is nearing 3 years ago now, on a summer's night, drenched with surprise, that myself and a certain McCallum somehow fell prey to an awkward demise. It had been a fair while since we'd both buzzed in style whilst rehearsing our musical act, eager and anxious to fill up our noses, we proceeded with minimal tact. Guitars in hand and drone in gland, we voyaged to our usual place, the benches just down the road from my house, where soon we'd become so disgraced. It started so well, we were both high as hell, under the powder's spell. Our playing was tight as we sniffed through the night, we entertained the streetlights. Time went by as we flew mighty high, and through the first gram we ascended. The playing was good, we hit the notes that we should, such a shame that this period soon ended. For one of us said, "It is time for some water," for our mouths were both deserts of dry. Both unaware we were lambs at the slaughter, we returned to my house rather high. Back at the house with our thirsts duly quenched, then of course it was time to resume. But a problem the size of 6 cities arose, for our friend was not in the room. "Where is it?" I shouted. "Don't you have it?" he cried, our worlds at once beaten and sore. Who had the gram we could neither decide, so we instantly fled out the door. We rushed back to the bench, our hearts in our feet, gurning and flapping, we raced down the street, we rambled and scrambled and rambled again, as we hopelessly called for our absent friend. No luck at the bench, so we turned on our heels and fled back to the house with due haste. Yes, Usain Bolt may be sporting of wheels, but we certainly matched him for pace. Back at the house, the door was locked. "Did you lock it? Why is it locked?" "I didn't lock it," he said, so we went round the front to be greeted with grandiose shock. Dear listener or reader, whichever you might, trust in me when I say, in such context, there is no more deadly a sight than your mum standing in the doorway. As I looked in her eyes, part of me died, as did the high in my heart. Though me and my friend knew it was the end, we didn't know where to start. "What is that stuff on the toilet seat?" she said, silent in tone that could kill. Before I replied, the rest of me died. If I were sober, I'd have been still. "It's Popper's," I shouted. "It's Louis," he cried, but neither excuse did suffice. We could not pull any wool over her eyes, and her stare lingered, colder than ice. We both stood there trying to talk a way out, but nothing our words could improve. She knew what the race and the pace was about. As we stood there, we tried not to move. With the room filled with gloom, she returned to her room and left us both bent in her wake. Of course, all we wanted to do was resume, but we had nothing other to take. In my kitchen, both feeling beaten and spent, we just had to give it a crack. So up to my parents' bedroom I went, where I entered and asked for it back. Rejected, as expected, I retired to the kitchen, and then only 5 minutes or so must have passed before I went up and asked them again. And yes, I suppose it should go without saying, unsuccessful I was in my plight. Perhaps we'd both have been better off praying, so we gave up and called it a night.